Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. This information I'm going to bring to you is going to be coming out of Iowa, New York, and also an older story out of Detroit area. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello, Joelle in the chat, and my guest will be the CEO of Tennessee Big Steppers. Thank you all so much for joining me. All right, everybody, we're going to get started with the first source coming out of Iowa pertaining to a woman taken from a nursing facility and pronounced dead there and later found alive at a funeral home. ABC7 News Bay Area is the source.
According to an 8-page report from the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals, a 66-year-old woman was admitted to Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center in Urbandale in December of 2021. Just over a year later, on December 28th, she was admitted to hospice care. The report details just 6 days later, January 3rd, a licensed practical nurse pronounced the woman dead. The nurse noted the woman's eyes were fixed and there was no breath sounds. The report also states the nurse could not locate a pulse and placed a hand on the woman's stomach and felt no movement. A funeral home was called to pick up the woman. In the report, the funeral director said they saw no signs of life from the woman and placed her inside a cloth bag and zipped it shut. When the woman arrived at the funeral home, staff zipped open the bag and found the woman's chest moving as she gasped for air. The funeral home then called 911. When first responders arrived, they found a pulse and the woman breathing, but no eye movement or verbal response. She was taken to the hospital, then released back to Glen Oaks on January 3rd for continued hospice care. 2 days later, on the 5th, she passed away surrounded by family. Lisa Eastman, executive director of the center, released the following statement to Local 5, saying, "We have been in close communication with the family of the resident, and we just completed an investigation by the Department of Inspections and Appeals regarding the matter. We care deeply for our residents and remain fully committed to supporting their end-of-life care. All employees undergo regular training so they can best support end-of-life care and the death of our residents."
All right, everybody, ABC7 is the source. Now, when I read this article, I did not hear that she was taken to the hospital. Hold on a minute. Let me see if they're still talking on here. Hold on. Let me see. No. All right. Very interesting information. Let's go to New York. Same scenario out of New York. NBC New York. NY funeral home finds dead 82-year-old woman still breathing. Mercy.
Yeah, that's crazy right there.
Okay.
Then moved to a funeral home in Miller Place, but hours later, the funeral home discovered
Let me go back
an 82-year-old woman was pronounced dead, then moved to a funeral home in Miller Place, but hours later, the funeral home discovered she was breathing. Now, the state is looking into how this could have happened. Let's get out the news for Daisy Chang, live in Port Jefferson with some new reaction here, Daisy.
Yeah, Natalie, outrageous, shocking, unbelievable, just some of the words that come to mind. So many questions that the Attorney General's office is now tasked with answering. A routine day at the O.B. Davis Funeral Home took a stunning turn when an 82-year-old woman pronounced dead was found to be alive and breathing.
I'm not able to mention it.
I can imagine the shock for the families and friends to see the person who was actually dead and then starting to breathe.
According to Suffolk County Police, the woman was at Waters Edge Rehab and Nursing Center in Port Jefferson. Police say she was pronounced dead at 11:15 a.m., transported to the funeral home at 1:30, and was discovered breathing by 2:09 and taken to a nearby hospital.
My sister texted me to send me a thing. I was blown away. Yeah, no, that was pretty scary.
Scott Burkmeyer's mother had been a patient at that rehab center. She was discharged 2 weeks ago. This news hits him different.
I don't know who was running the show, or there was something. There's obviously a lot of incompetence there somewhere at some level.
The nursing home did not return our request for comment. The funeral home, which discovered the woman alive, said in part, "We are not in a position to comment further on this matter."
I have a neighbor who was at that rehab for probably 9 months, and could have been anybody, could have been my relative, so she's got to be very upset.
Again, that woman was moved to a hospital. It's unclear what her condition is right now, and the Attorney General's office is investigating. We're live from Port Jefferson tonight. Daisy Chang, News 4 New York.
All right, everybody, that's my second source, New York, Waters Edge. So we've got the same scenario, just like coming out of Iowa. A woman was pronounced dead, can't give her name, at Waters Edge Rehab and Nursing Center in Port Jefferson about 11:15 a.m. on a Saturday. Hours later, she was breathing again. Found at a local funeral home. That is source number 2. First source out of Iowa, 66-year-old woman. Source number 2, New York, 82-year-old woman. Let's go back in time to Detroit. Similar situation coming out of Detroit many moons ago. Thank you for joining me. Woman pronounced dead found alive at Detroit funeral home. WXYZ TV Detroit is the source. Thank you for joining me.
Declared dead, who turned out to be both alive and breathing. The shocking discovery was made at a funeral home in Detroit. Right now, we're trying to figure out the condition of that 20-year-old woman. 7 Action News reporter Darren Cunningham has a closer look at this shocking turn of events.
A bizarre discovery here at James H. Cole Funeral Home, one that the woman's family hopes turns into a miraculous recovery. Paramedics from the Southfield Fire Department attempted to revive an unresponsive woman for 30 minutes, according to Fire Chief Johnny Menifee. It's not clear to us what led up to the 911 phone call. After a half hour, the chief says the 20-year-old was pronounced dead. In a statement, Chief Menifee said, quote, because there was no indication of foul play, as per standard operating procedure, the Oakland County Medical Examiner's office was contacted and given the medical data. The patient was again determined to have expired, and the body was released directly to the family to make arrangements with a funeral home of their choosing, end quote. But hours later, staff over at the James H. Cole Funeral Home realized she was still breathing. A loved one of the unidentified woman posted about the incident on Facebook, saying he received a phone call learning his sister was being rushed to the hospital because she had a heart rate of 85. The funeral home released a statement saying, quote, while it is our practice to not comment on open investigations, we can confirm we received a call to pick up a Southfield woman who was deceased. After receiving clearance from the Oakland County Medical Examiner's office, she was transported to our funeral home. Upon her arrival at the funeral home, our staff confirmed she was breathing and called EMS. Our thoughts and prayers are with this young woman and her family. So how does this happen? The medical examiner tells me it's not unheard of. He says a misdiagnosis of death can occur if a person is in a deep coma or if there is an inability to detect vital signs. In Detroit, Darren Cunningham, 7 Action News.
All right, thank you, Darren. And of course,
all right, everybody. That's WXYZ TV Detroit. Worst case scenario. We're going to chop all that up here in just a second. Thank you for joining me. 3 different cases: Iowa, New York, and then Detroit 2 years ago of a 20-year-old, which is very baffling to know of a 20-year-old being put in a bag and driven to Detroit from another town. Same scenario as these other elderly people. We're going to chop that up. Just one moment, please. All right, everybody, I'm going to read you the first information out of Iowa. Thank you for joining me. This is pertaining to the 66-year-old female. CBS News is the source. Woman mistakenly pronounced dead, gasped for air after being found by Iowa funeral home staff. Please listen very carefully to the information, because in this article, it did not say she got rushed to the hospital, but this first video I played you the audio, it said she did go to the hospital after the people at the home nursing facility declared her deceased. An Iowa care facility is facing fines totaling $10,000 after mistakenly pronouncing a 66-year-old resident dead and having her transported to a funeral home where she woke up gasping for air. A new report from Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals released on February 1st, 2023, and first reported by CBS affiliate KCCI, details the series of events that led up to the woman being mistakenly pronounced dead. The unidentified resident, who had been at the Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care since December 2021, was moved into hospice care at the facility on December 28, 2022. So that's a year later, because of senile degeneration of the brain. While in hospice care, comfort measures were taken. Over the course of several days, staff members recorded occurrences of diminished lung sounds and minor seizures. On January 3rd, 2023, the woman was pronounced dead at 6 a.m. Remember that, 6 a.m. After an employee identified as Staff C said that she did not feel a pulse and found the resident was not breathing at that time. The staff member notified a licensed practical nurse. The woman's family was alerted and local funeral home was called. A funeral director arrived shortly after 7:30. You'll hear that word mentioned a lot in each story, shortly after. So now an hour and a half later, and with the assistance of another nurse, we're now on nurse 2, one staff and now 2 nurses, identified as LPND, the resident was placed in a body bag, which was zipped shut. The funeral director left the facility shortly after 8:26. We are now an hour later, everybody. Employees at the Ankeny Funeral Home and Crematory unzipped the bag. They observed the resident's chest moving and she gasped for air, the report states. The funeral home then called 911 in the care facility, and when EMS responded, they were able to record a pulse and breathing, but there was no eye movement and no verbal response. That same day, the resident was returned to the care facility. She passed away early in the morning of January 5th with her family at her side, the report said. That's 2 days later. We have been in close communications with the family of the resident, and we just completed an investigation by the Department of Inspections and Appeals regarding the matter. Lisa Eastman, the facility's executive director, told CBS News, "We care deeply for our residents and remain fully committed to supporting their end-of-life care. All employees undergo regular training so they can best support end-of-life care and the death of our residents. The facility faces 2 state violations from the DIA, which could result in a $10,000 fine." CBS News is the source. So the fine, is it $10,000 per fine or $10,000 total? Because they've got 2 violations. Let's chop up what was said. We've got one person saying no pulse. She then goes, gets a LPN. She obviously joins in. Then that person goes, gets another nurse. And all this starts at 6 a.m. declared dead. Then the funeral director comes at 7:30, which is an hour and a half later. Okay? So we have now a funeral director, another nurse, LPN, all these people declaring this person dead and then put into a bag 1.5 hours later. Then at 8:26, at the funeral home, the bag is unzipped and they realize she's breathing. This is 2.5 hours later. Let the queen tell you how far Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center is to the Ankeny Funeral Home Crematory. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 14.1 miles. So imagine all this shuffling around. Everybody's touching her, looking at her, zipping her up, putting her in the hearse. 20-minute drive from one county to the next or one town to the next, all while being alive. Let's go over to New York, pertaining to the 82-year-old lady. Thank you for joining me. CBS is that source if you need verification for the information. Oh, mercy. See if I got that one. All right, everybody. 1 second. I think I'm going to have to pull that one up. Hold on, because I didn't get a verification about the New York lady. Hold on 1 second. How are you, Miss CEO up there? You okay?
I am great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I thought I had a source
Baby,
for
I'm
that lady.
blessed and highly favored.
Huh?
I said I'm blessed and highly favored.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. Let's go to this, The Guardian, pertaining to the lady in New York, and then we'll chop up all this information. An 82-year-old woman was pronounced dead at a New York nursing home, only to be found breathing 3 hours later at the funeral home where she had been taken, authorities said. It was the second time in about a month something of the sort has happened in the U.S. Second time in a month. The woman in the more recent case was at Waters Edge Rehab and Nursing Center at Long Island's Port Jefferson at 11:15 a.m. Saturday when she was pronounced dead. The local county police said the woman, whose name was not released, was reportedly taken to O.B. Davis Funeral Home in Miller Place, New York at 1:30. Police said she was discovered breathing at 2:09. The woman was taken to a hospital. No update on her condition was available Monday. The apparent premature declaration of death occurred days after a continuing care home in Iowa, which I just described to you, was fined $10,000 over a similar case. Authorities in Iowa said that a 66-year-old woman was declared dead on January 3rd at the Glen Oaks Alzheimer's Special Care Center in Urbandale, Iowa, where she was receiving hospice care. And as I already told you, she was put in a bag, taken to the Ankeny Funeral Home and Crematory. They opened the bag and found this lady breathing for air. The New York Times reported attributing the information to a citation from the Iowa Department of Inspections, which I told you that they are facing up to a $10,000 fine. That facility called 911 and she was returned to the hospice care from a hospital where she died on the 5th of January, which was 2 days later. The Iowa Inspection and Appeals Department said in a report, police said that the New York case has been referred to the state attorney's general office for investigation. Okay. That is the said information. This is where I have the problem. In Iowa, we've got all these different people touching on this lady, allegedly checking for a pulse. Okay. We've got staff 1, LPN. She contacts a nurse. That's 3 people. Then we've got the director coming in. You're talking about 2.5 hours total of fumbling around with an elderly person until they got to the funeral home where they're now breathing. Imagine somebody seeing them breathing and they didn't do a damn thing. Just went on and went forward to disposing of the body and prepping the body. Another problem is somebody might want to go get a hamburger. There's a live person in a damn bag in the back of a hearse, and they might decide they want to go to Kohl's and look for some shoes or stop at Piggly Wiggly to get a soda pop. Do you see where I'm going?
Yep.
Because anybody could stop and make a run, make an errand. No rush. Such as the situation with the 20-year-old in Detroit 2 years ago, going from one town to the next, 20, 30-minute drive perhaps. Every minute counts when the person is alive in the bag. And just imagine the person getting to a funeral home where they notice they are alive and decide, hell, I ain't going to say nothing. We're going to go forward with the crematory and or embalming them. Imagine embalming a live person. Okay? Just imagine that. Now let's think about the situation with the girl in Detroit. They worked on her for 20 minutes, and then the medical examiner got the information via the fire department and the EMTs. Nobody actually came out to see how she died. Imagine that somebody giving her poison, stopped her heart, and she didn't even get an autopsy done. Stay woke now. So imagine when the medical examiner either gets information via the phone or he or she shows up, it looks okay, it looks like it ain't no foul play, and then just go on and send them over to the funeral home without no autopsy. That's a problem for me right there if there's no autopsy, because if they were poisoned, if they were found to be suffocated with no evidence of suffocation, then that could be a murder that you just deemed natural causes. TBS, take it from here.
My opinion is that's the craziest thing I ever heard in my life.
Well, I Google searched trying to figure out how many times this has happened in the U.S., but I couldn't come up with any type of figure.
I mean, with the ambulance people, the nurses, and all that. You mean to tell me this woman made it all the way to the funeral home and she was alive?
20 minutes at the first case, 20-minute drive.
What the heck?
Now you imagine 20 minutes. 20 minutes right now where we live is one town to the next.
Yeah, that ain't straight right there.
Mm-hmm. 3.5 hours total.
Like I'm stunned. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I ain't never heard of that in my life.
Really? You never heard of this before?
Never.
Yeah. Detroit, that first time I think I heard of it was Detroit. The case I just mentioned, the last one that came out of Detroit of the 20-year-old girl.
Yeah, I ain't never heard that. That's crazy. That's slippers on all kind of accounts.
And I understand some people probably do have faint pulse, especially when people are nearing death and they're sickly. Their pulses probably are very faint that you can't hear, but there needs to be some type, there's got to be with all this modern technology, some type of device that can say, okay, we detect a pulse, it's faint. Let's get them to the ER.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I don't even know what I would do if I discovered something like that.
Yeah,
It's
that would
crazy.
be bad. Because obviously all these people were already sickly people. I can't remember if that girl had any type of problems. It's been a while since I touched on that story about the girl at the funeral home in Detroit that was sickly. I think she might have had some healthcare issues too. But like I said, I understand a lot of people when they are already sickly and nearing death, they will have, a faint pulse. But when you start talking about different people working on the victim, touching them, the pulse, and then all of a sudden somebody unzip a bag hours later, because each of these cases are hours later, here come these people gasping. Yeah, because their whole airway was cut off being in the bag.
Man, that's crazy right there. So hold on. Like, even I watch TV, of course, and some of it's fiction and some of it's true, but when they pick up somebody, the coroner pick up somebody and take them to the hospital, most of the time they be laid out on the table for a while. Am I right or wrong?
If they get to the morgue. See, these people never got to the hospital, to the morgue. They didn't get to the morgue. They just automatically went to funeral homes. You only go to the morgue if they want to do it when an autopsy is rendered that it should be one for foul play, such as like when people get shot, stabbed, you're going to automatically get a autopsy. These people are already in respite care, nursing home care, so they're bypassing all that and going straight to the funeral home and notifying the family.
Oh, okay.
Or notifying the family, then the family say, okay, send them over to J&J funeral home, crematory, whatever.
Okay. Well, in that case, I mean, I don't even know.
But just imagine if they were aided death. Let me go there. Imagine the person is at the funeral home, rehab, and we've got a nasty nurse, which we had a case of that, of a dirty nurse out of North Carolina that was killing the patients in the hospital. Imagine if you had somebody in a nursing home that was facilitating the death, aiding these sick people to their new journey. And they know 9 times out of 10, there's not going to be no autopsy. A person right now could be deliberately killing the patients off, knowing the family is not going to send them to, you understand what I'm saying? To the hospital for an autopsy. You see, in these two cases, they went directly to the funeral home. So imagine somebody actually murdered them.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't know.
And they didn't wake up at the funeral home.
Right. And that's weird too, because just think if they assuming that they died of natural causes and they really didn't.
Exactly. Yeah, because everybody's situation in a nursing home is not the same. Some people go in there for rehabilitation, from like hip surgery, ankle surgery, knee surgery. They send you to rehab. So a lot of nursing homes are both a rehab and a nursing home. So imagine being there for a couple of months just to be healing up. And like I said, you get a dirty nurse, LPN, whomever, decide to help aid you on to your journey to the next life.
Yeah.
And a medical examiner don't come out and do an autopsy, or don't come out to see, how you died, or you look like you just fell asleep. You died in your sleep. No marks of strangulation, no marks of suffocation. Okay, go ahead. We'll put the time of death at this, and then your family's calling, and then your family just come pick you up. But if your family knows that you were up and happy and talking, they will say, no, I want them to go to the hospital. I want them to get an autopsy.
Yeah, I mean, I would for my family member hold on, I'm going to back up. Because when you get autopsy, you do get cut on. So if I'm sure, well, you can't be sure. You can't even be sure, not unless your family member was sickly and they be around you. When people be around other people that they don't know, you can't trust people nowadays.
Yeah.
You don't know what somebody might do.
Well, we have had cases in America of nurses facilitating death in hospitals with children and adults.
I don't put nothing past nobody. You don't know what people might do nowadays. So, if one of my family members was in a nursing home facility or something, and they passed away, like yeah, I probably would know they were sick or whatever the case may be. But I definitely would want to know for sure what the cause was.
Yeah.
I would. I can't speak for everybody else, but I definitely would want to know like how my family member passed away. So yeah, I would want them to go to the hospital and get an autopsy.
I was trying to get some stats on this. A lot of these places, they took place different parts of the countries, at overseas. And I find that interesting. And most of these cases take place overseas where the people wake up at the morgue. I thought, what the hell?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let's see. Trying to see if there's some stats on that. People that woke up at the morgue. To me, it's all the same. Let's see. Can't find anything. That's what I was looking up. Let's see, there might be something. See, all these other foreign countries, India, elderly 95-year-old man fainted earlier. Upon being able to revive, a doctor called to attend, pronounced him dead, though it turns out the call was made a little prematurely. Then it said earlier this year, a woman in South Africa was wrongly pronounced dead after a car crash, with the paramedics later blaming a mix-up on their equipment. Then the other case was in Kenya. A Kenyan man appears to have accidentally Romeo and Julieted himself when the insecticide he drank caused him to appear dead, only to later miraculously wake up in the morgue. Then another case is in Greece, 2014. A woman was found to have been buried alive and asphyxiated in her coffin. The mistake was only discovered when children playing near the cemetery heard her screaming from within the earth. Are you hearing this?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And these are all foreign places with these occurrences.
That's crazy. Like, I'm baffled. Like, it's crazy. I ain't never heard it in my life.
Yeah, most of these stories are coming from overseas where this has happened.
So why it's never been like spoke on like on the news and stuff like that? Because I've never
Probably
heard.
because really it's a matter of if somebody catches it in time, who's catching it in time. Because like I told you, imagine the people who don't call to realize the person is alive in the bag. And who's to say they could just, let's say I open a bag at the funeral home, I see you gasping. What if I was just a cold-blooded EMF and decided to zip the bag up and let you finish on out? See where I'm going?
Yeah. That's my point.
That's what's scary of the cases that don't get reported and the people just go ahead and shut the bag.
I mean, that's mean right there. Like
you by yourself, can't nobody say either way that you realize the person was alive if it's only one person witnessing the person breathing.
Yeah, that's mean. But you got people like that in this world for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying. See, here it says, as for when a person is legally dead, most Australian states require a medical practitioner, i.e. a doctor, to declare death, though some also extend this to nurses, midwives, and qualified paramedics. Now, this is overseas. This is usually termed as recognition of life extinct, that is, not a cause of death or legally dead, but rather that further resuscitation efforts are totally futile. For example, in our standards are no heart or breath sounds for 30 seconds, no palpable keratoid pulse, fixed dilated pupils, and no response to central stimuli. As paramedics, we don't find a cause of death. We simply note that resuscitation is futile and report the death. It's rarely done by RNs because they're usually in a position where they either call us or are working under direction of doctors who will complete a full death certificate and examination. And this is in Australia. And answering to that, people waking up in the morgue. It's very strange. But I'm trying to find stories here in the U.S. and I can't find any statistics of how many people have woke up in the funeral home. Now, here's one said woke up during the autopsy. See, this goes back to a man declared dead by 3 doctors woke up shortly before his autopsy. A few years ago, Spanish prison authorities were rather baffled after a prisoner who had been declared dead by 3 separate doctors woke up in the morgue just hours before his own autopsy. That was February 4th, 2022. But I don't see anything here in America. But since we have HIPAA laws, I guess it's a matter of who's going to repeat it. And the state, as you hear in this situation in Iowa, they're fining them. So still the state can mention it without giving their names.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I wonder why. I ain't never seen on the news or nothing.
Okay. Let's see what legal death is. Let's see. That's about legal death. Can you be dead and alive at the same time? That's probably the best question.
No.
It says, at the heart of quantum mechanics lies quantum superposition. The strange phenomenon is often described as the capacity of a quantum system to be in multiple incompatible states at the same time. The most famous example of this is Schrodinger's cat, which would be both dead and alive at the same time on October 11, 2018. They got a little more information about that. Let me see. Maybe that's what's going on. The people appear dead.
Mm-hmm. This is a crazy subject. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
but obviously 2 times in a month. That's 2 times in a month. That's kind of scary. 166, 182.
Very much so. Very much so. That's crazy right there. But then, you know what? The way the world going now, nothing don't surprise me.
Okay, we're going to see what it's called. It says that Schrodinger's cat is both dead and alive. It is not clear what he, she means, and stated like that is nonsense. When a quantum scientist says that a physical system is in superposition of 2 states, dead and alive, he, she means that it is in a state that is neither the first dead nor the second alive, but it is in another state that possesses some of the characteristics of both dead and alive. This is a relatively good analogy. This shape is neither a rectangle nor a disc. However, it has some of the properties of both. Moreover, I like this analogy because in quantum mechanics, you cannot see the quantum state the physical system is in. In other words, if someone gives you a system in a certain unknown state, you cannot learn the state. If you try to measure it, you only see a projection of it. I don't know. They've been using this fancy talk. Quantum mechanics. So could it be they are in both states? What do you think? Both states of alive and dead on their way out.
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, now I would really questioning if it happened in the same state, but it's 2 different states. So, I mean, I don't know, because it's crazy. I definitely would question if it happened in the same state.
Now, we already know that if the person was upbeat, moving around, then I would question the death. Some people probably not going to question it because if the person was there for as degenerating, Alzheimer's, whatever, you figure they were already going into the late stages out of life. But it's still a matter of preserving life up until a final death. So that's where this is a problem. When is the final death if you can't recognize that they are actually they actually have a faint pulse? You know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
I don't seen people take their last breath before being in the healthcare.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't actually seen them take their last breath, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't see how this. I don't know. I don't see that's how this can just happen and get past 2, 3, 4 different people, nurses, ambulances, coroners. Like I don't understand.
Somebody is saying that somebody died in a nursing facility, and I feel like he was neglected, and that's why he passed. It's a long story down to losing his files. Yeah, that don't sound good. But why would the files be missing?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So
Like,
that's when I say there could be a problem, because it's not for nobody to determine who should live and who should die. But you may have what I just said, a sick person that may say, well, they already died. Let me go and finish them out. And if they got an inkling that there's not going to be any autopsy, yeah, they'll kill them. We've seen it. It's not something people want to focus on, having somebody being murdered in a hospital or a nursing facility. But I believe a lot of people have possibly been facilitated. Death has been facilitated by somebody, a staff member. Who's going to say?
yeah,
Who's going to say if you don't get an autopsy?
that's what I'm saying. Like, I would prefer my loved one if it was one of mine. I need to know. You know what I'm saying? I would
Even
be
if let's say they was even in hospice already, you put your mom, dad in hospice, and you know they've already told you that they're going to eventually pass away. They don't have a definite date, but you just put them in hospice. Let's say they stayed in there 3 weeks. You would still get an autopsy?
yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why is because if I didn't, I would be. It would kill me to just be curious from now on. I
Okay.
would rather know than not to know.
Okay. West Virginia say they should hook them up to an EKG machine. No heartbeat, then they are not alive. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I know that case I brought, I think it's about that same one in Detroit. That one had me baffled a few years ago when I talked about that story, because that one was winded.
Yeah, I mean,
That one was winded. Let me see if I can find that one, because that one was just it had me baffled. Because I was like, what in the hell am I reading?
crazy. It's crazy.
Thank you all for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Our super stickers and chats are welcome during this live stream. We're going to go to the New York Times pertaining to that case out of New York. Now, this girl had some developmental issues. She was a Black girl. I reported on this story a few years ago, so please check my library 2 years ago. It's in my library. I've done a video on this case. Tamisha Beaucamp, 20, was declared dead in August, only to be found alive hours later at a funeral home near Detroit. She died on Sunday. This was uploaded October 19, 2020, so this is coming up 2.5 years ago. A young Michigan woman who was pronounced dead in August, only to be found alive at a funeral home hours later, has died, her family's lawyer said. The woman, Tamisha Beaucamp, 20, died on Sunday at the Children's Hospital in Michigan in Detroit after about 8 weeks in a coma, said Jeffrey Feiger, the lawyer. Ms. Beaucamp's ordeal began on August 23rd when her family called 911 for help at their home in Southfield, Michigan, because Ms. Beaucamp was born with cerebral palsy, was having trouble breathing. 4 paramedics responded to the call and spent 30 minutes trying to revive her, but Ms. Beaucamp did not show signs of life, Chief Johnny L. Menifee of Southfield Fire Department, which sent the paramedics said at the news conference in August. The paramedics then called an emergency department physician who pronounced Ms. Beaucamp dead based on information provided over the phone. So he wasn't there. He let somebody tell him this information over the phone. Okay. Later, Ms. Beaucamp was taken to the James H. Cole Home for Funerals, where an employee preparing to embalm her body discovered that she was breathing and had her eyes open. Mr. Figer said. Only then was she transported to the hospital and put on a ventilator. It's really a terrible tragedy that should never have occurred, and it's some people's nightmare, Mr. Figer said, adding that the matter was made worse by the fact that Ms. Beauchamp was disabled. It happened to somebody who couldn't speak up for herself. Mr. Figer said Ms. Beauchamp died as a result of hypoxic brain damage, which happens when the brain is deprived of oxygen. She was deprived of oxygen for hours before getting to a hospital, he added. In a statement provided by Mr. Figer, the family said it was devastated. This is the second time our beloved Tamisha has been pronounced dead. Okay, here we go. Second time. But this time she isn't coming back. The family is suing the city of Southfield and the 4 paramedics for $50 million, Mr. Figer said. The fire department did not immediately respond to the request for comment on Monday evening, but said in a statement in August that the Southfield Fire and Police Departments follow all appropriate city, county, and state protocols and procedures in this case. The fire department also said that the Oakland County Medical Control Authority, as well as the city, were conducting an investigation, the findings of which would be reported to the state of Michigan Bureau of EMS, Trauma, and Preparedness. The licenses of the 4 paramedics, 2 firefighter paramedics, and 2 firefighter emergency medical technicians were suspended by the state of Michigan as a result of the episode, and they have been placed on paid administrative leave by the city, the fire department said in August. Calls and emails to the Oakland County Medical Control Authority and the Southfield Police Department on Monday were not immediately returned. The mayor of Southfield, Kinzer Siver, said Monday in an email, "Our sympathies go out to the Beauchamp family. We have no further comment at this time due to pending litigation." Jocelyn K. Coley, a spokeswoman for the funeral home, said the home extends our most sincere condolences to the family of Miss Tamisha Beauchamp. Wow. So she had cerebral palsy, had been declared twice. I'd like to know how many times, what's the duration between time 1 and time number 2?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll.
Well, what it is, the point is, they're not going to do an autopsy if people are in respite care. I think everybody knows this. It's be up to the family to say, I'd like to have an autopsy done. But the medical examiner is not going to come out if the person is in respite care and is in a phase of barely holding on to life. So they won't send out no medical examiner because they'll feel like, okay, they died of natural causes. It'll possibly be up to the family to say, well, I still want one done. And that is the family's right. Nobody can tell the family they can't, command an autopsy.
But if they in respite care, they ain't there yet. So why would they even be talking about an autopsy?
I don't know. Ain't respite care right before?
Yeah, right before you die, not when you die. Like it's rest, right. You're not even dead yet, respite care. So
right. That's what I'm saying. When they're in what I call the last stages, which would be the hospice. Even if they die there, some family members probably won't go get an autopsy because they already knew that they were dying. That's why they're put there. But like I said, it's up to the family if they decide still, I want an autopsy anyway. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't get an autopsy because the people they knew were dying. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I'm definitely with the autopsy. I mean, I need an autopsy for mine. I need to know, even if I knew they were sick or whatever, because I mean, things happen. Like you just don't know. I don't know. I want to know. I want to know. You know what I'm saying? Even though how the situation would be, but I would rather know than not to know. It ain't like the autopsy gonna hurt them. They dead or are they dead? At this point.
Well, the one in Iowa, you see that situation, $10,000 fine, because I think they realized the obvious. It's too many people were handling her before she even left the nursing facility. Yeah, so if you got a registered nurse who's the last one to touch her and look at her, you should know is she alive or dead. But then it goes back to this information I just got with this quantum mechanics business. Could it be that a person's in between stages of life and death?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
West Virginia says I would ask for a toxicology report at least. Okay.
I mean, yeah, that too. But I don't know where that would just dig deep down into to see what the issue is, like an autopsy would. My daddy did it for 35 years. So I know with an autopsy, you are going to find out what you need to find out.
Mm-hmm. So now let's go here. As I said, the right thing to do is to call 911 once they get to the funeral home. Imagine how many people never called 911 once they got to the funeral home and realized the people were alive. See, we'll never know.
Tell that story. You know why? Because there's slippers on the ambulance, the nurse, the everybody that's done handle them, and they get to the funeral home and they still alive. They ain't gonna want that to be known. So I wonder if they, like you said, go ahead and kill them.
The enthusiasm in your voice, you're killing me right now. Damn.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean,
because what'd be bad is if somebody at the funeral home get to snitching and talking and saying they really didn't even pay attention, and then you done went on and murdered them off at the funeral home.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, people slick nowadays. You you can't put nothing past nobody nowadays. You don't know. People will go ahead and kill you. If you in the States like that for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying, especially if they not no kin to you, you ain't about to get no money, none. So why would you go ahead and kill somebody? But it's some mean people in this world.
Yeah, because there's really no difference if I open the bag, see you alive. I'm gonna go on and kill you anyway because I'm sick. It's no different than the person that see you sick in the hospital, and you may not really have no major issues at the hospital, but I just want to squeeze the tube or put an extra diabetical medicine in the tube or whatever in the IV.
I mean, nurses.
That's a story I'm gonna do next. I'll probably do a story on that tomorrow about that nurse in North Carolina because there is a documentary about it and a movie I believe on Netflix about that male doctor. And it's creepy because I had fallen asleep on watching. I might finish it tonight. But he was creepy when his friend confronted him and she went undercover to try to get him to confess or whatever. That's a creepy movie.
It's off the subject, but you gotta watch. Oh my goodness. Dang it, I forgot.
Okay.
Wait, it's
you slipping into a coma now in that bed.
I'm working.
You sluggish right now.
No, I'm working. I'm paying attention. It's what is 12. It? Reader? Something
it's almost
reader.
12. It's almost time for you to
I'm up all night.
No, look, it's almost time for you to leave the ball. With your glass slipper turn.
I'll be up all night. I'm when they sleeping, I'm working. I'm working now.
But that's a scary thing. When I had learned about that case with the young girl, the black girl in the Detroit area, that really hurt my heart because I was like, she laid in that bag all that time and was alive. Poor thing, couldn't fight, didn't have the strength to reach up and beat the bag or anything. And her bag was probably a vinyl bag, not no cloth bag like the lady in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think the whole situation is, I just think all that is ridiculous. Like, especially, and look at how so much be hush hush nowadays.
Yeah.
I just think it's sad. Like, cause I've never ever in my life heard of nobody being found alive that's supposed to have been dead. Never.
Really? Well, obviously it happens a lot overseas from what I was looking through the Google search. Because all those cases that I was just reading about, those are all overseas for some interesting reason. So I don't know if they got a different type of metabolism overseas that they got like a cat. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, this is.
So that black girl, she died 8 weeks later from her incident. So she held on for 2 months. So that's a long time to hold on with oxygen, no oxygen to the brain.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, where was she at? Who found her?
She died at home. Allegedly died at home.
Yeah, I'm saying who found her though?
I guess a relative. She was at home, and I guess they realized she wasn't breathing, so they called 911.
And so she was somewhere
So it
not
started off
breathing.
at her house. This wasn't no nursing home. The black girl was at our house.
Oh, so she was at home by herself, not breathing. Nobody knew
No,
that.
she was at home with a relative, but I guess they realized she wasn't breathing that morning, so they dialed 911.
I'm saying, but she wasn't breathing for 2 weeks.
No, baby, she wasn't breathing at the house. They declared her dead at the house with the EMTs and all that. She goes to the funeral home in the next town, and then once they realize they open a bag, she then goes to the hospital and stayed alive for 2 months in the hospital.
Oh, okay. She's at the hospital. I got you. I'm with you now.
But the point was, when you read the original article, they were going back and forth that morning. You could tell it was winded. So she suffered. It's obvious for her to hell. They probably left her on the ventilator for 2 months. They ain't want to let her die. They ain't want to let her go.
It's crazy. I don't understand.
Because what's crazy is she's laying dead in her house for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get. Now, how she laying there dead, nobody don't know it.
Yeah, well, she did. It's obvious because I can't remember the whole time limit because they didn't show it in this article that I brought up. But she was dead for a while, just sitting there laying in the bag while they doing everything, and then waiting on the people to come and take her to the funeral home. The funeral home wasn't right nearby because it was Southfield to Detroit. It was 2 different places.
So who put her in the bag?
The EMT, girl.
So wait a minute. The EMT put her in the bag and left her at her house.
What I'm saying is, look, they worked on her for 20 minutes. So imagine she was still alive even at the time you thought she was dead. They worked on her for 20 minutes. Then you put her in the bag. And I can't remember how long it took, but it was a while before she got to the destination to the funeral home. The funeral home wasn't right next door.
I know. I was just saying. I thought. Well, okay. I'm confused because I thought when the EMTs are there and they found out that you dead, like I thought the coroner puts them in the bag, not the EMT.
But a coroner wasn't called. Remember, they did everything over the phone.
What?
You done missed all that. So you doing other stuff.
No, I'm listening. I'm just saying, like, that's crazy to me. If somebody is.
She lived in Southfield. They called 911 August 23rd because she appeared to be suffering from serious breathing problems. Emergency medical technicians and paramedics responded, and a doctor who didn't attend the scene pronounced her dead after one of the first responders reported by telephone that she had been unresponsive for 30 minutes and showed no signs of life. Beauchamp was taken to a hospital until an hour later when it says Beauchamp wasn't taken to a hospital until an hour later when the Cole Funeral Home in Detroit called 911. The state said funeral home staff saw her chest moving when they went to collect her from the Southfield home. She's been hospitalized in critical condition ever since. Beaucamp's family said in a statement Monday that they're devastated by her death. This is the second time our beloved Tamisha has been pronounced dead, but this time she isn't coming back. Then I told you that they filed a $50 million lawsuit. She died as a result of a massive brain damage that was suffered when the Southfield paramedics wrongly declared her dead and failed to provide her much needed oxygen. Instead, she was sent to a funeral home, which then discovered that her eyes were open and that she was alive. And then it goes on to the other stuff I told you. He reports in late August that Beauchamp might have been found alive due to Lazarus syndrome, in which people come back to life without assistance after attempts to resuscitate have failed.
Well, go get my daughter then.
You know what?
I'm just saying. If it's happening like it, they need to go see about my daughter. Let me see. I'm just saying.
She was Because they say they're working on what, 30 minutes. That's a long time to work on somebody and they still was breathing.
Yeah.
And then zipped up in a bag. See, 30 minutes showed no signs of life. She wasn't taken to a hospital until an hour later when the Cole Funeral Home in Detroit called 911. So that's a long ass time to be in a bag.
Yeah.
And then waiting for the EMTs after the people open the bag.
Imagine how scared she was in that bag like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, because if she in the bag and she's still breathing, imagine that and you
critical condition.
I don't know, like, I mean, if she's still breathing, like, and
yeah,
you see what I'm trying to say? Like, imagine the thoughts that she probably would have, because if she's still alive, she's still like, you know what I'm saying? Or is it?
She probably didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, because
I'm just gonna say that. That's it. Beaucamp was in a body bag for at least 2 hours. Okay, that's the end of the story.
Yeah, because after so long, after you don't have no oxygen, like your brain be
found
doing.
alive by workers at the funeral home August 23rd. The embalmer for the funeral home unzipped the bag and saw Tamisha with her eyes open, chest moving up and down, and gasping for air, according to the lawsuit.
See what I'm saying? Her eyes open
had
and
been
everything.
pronounced dead by paramedics who responded to an emergency dispatcher call around 7:35. See, that's what I forgot to tell you because each article got something different. I think they've been there 2 times, like they said. They had been there at 7:35 of an unresponsive woman at her Southfield residence. Paramedics reportedly worked to revive her 30 minutes and pronounced her dead when she did not respond. She was officially declared dead by a Providence hospital doctor who relied on information given by the paramedics. Despite concerns expressed twice by Beaucamp's family members that she appeared to be breathing and had a pulse, relatives were told that that was normal and was a result of medication. Beaucamp, who had cerebral palsy, was taken to the funeral home on Schaefer in Detroit, where a worker noticed she was alive. There, according to the Southfield police report, while they were picking up the body, they noticed the patient's chest moving. The chest was rising and falling very fast, and the patient gasped. Beaucamp was taken from the funeral home to Sinai Grace Hospital in Detroit. Reports indicated first responders failed to recognize that when the young woman was placed on the monitor 13 minutes after they discontinued CPR. It indicates she was not deceased. Figer has filed $50 million lawsuit against the city of Southfield and 4 of the city paramedics. The lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan and names the city of Southfield 4 city employees as defendants: Michael Storm, Scott Rickard, Philip Mulligan, and Jake Crow. The professional licenses of the paramedics were suspended by the state of Michigan. They were put on paid administrative leave pending investigation into the incident, city of Southfield officials said. And then it says, in response, the 4 emergency medical technicians and paramedics have filed a lawsuit against the state and local officials alleging their medical licenses were suspended without due process. Oh, interesting. Efforts to reach Southfield officials for comment on Beaucamp's death were not immediately successful Monday afternoon. See, each article got something different. So they end up countersuing and filing a lawsuit because their licenses got taken. Well, but 2 hours, 3 hours, that's a long ass time for somebody to be alive the whole time. And they said that the funeral home was saying her chest was going up and down rapidly. So how did you miss that?
So what you see what I'm saying now? This is a bunch of bull crap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's some bull crap all the way around the board. Something ain't right with that. It might you might have
30
some
minutes of working on her. 30 minutes of working on her right there at the house. You call the medical examiner, whoever, and he go ahead and sign off and say, okay, she did. When all along she was alive. So you didn't have no business signing off on it because you weren't there.
Right.
So all them at fault. Because I wouldn't put my Hancock on nothing. And I'm not there. Right. I'm going off your word. So now my reputation is on the line just because I'm banking off what you said.
Right.
And you got 4 EMTs that allegedly worked on her. And it started at 7-something in the morning and went on for hours into the day. And traveling from Southfield to Detroit. Let's see how far Southfield is to Detroit. Once again, as I said, somebody might stop and get a hamburger, coffee, any damn thing. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, that ain't straight.
How far is Southfield, Michigan to Detroit?
The drive from Southfield to Detroit is 15.2 miles.
18 minutes. And that depends on how far in the funeral home is from where they live in Southfield. Damn.
I'll tell you what.
18 plus minute drive.
I mean, it sounds like a bull crap to me.
Well, they got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to know the end result. Did they get their license reinstated? Because that's been 2 years ago. A little over 2 years, 2.5 years.
So
October, November, December, January, February. 2 years and 4 months.
So what happened to those people? What happened to the EMTs and the doctors?
They got their license taken.
They got their license taken. Is that all?
How much you want to bet they probably weren't even, they probably were white too. Yeah. I ain't trying to be racist, I'm just saying.
I mean, what the heck? Like, that's some serious stuff. Like, they only got their license taken and they missed over.
Well, it's no different than you being, and then they was on administrative leave. So imagine that. You still got paid, and then later your license got taken. So now you can't do that kind of work. Well, you go find a job doing something else.
What the
heck? We don't know if they got them reinstated because they could have went before board and got them reinstated. No different than a police being on administrative leave for beating somebody to sleep. We can go there.
What in the world?
See, when people have unions and stuff, they're represented. They're covered until further investigation. And you always can appeal something. That's the thing about anything. You get fired, whatever, you can always appeal, find a lawyer, go to the board, license board, and or union. See, it depends. Every situation is different.
I mean, I don't know. Just to get their license taken and then administrative leave, and that's all. What the world?
And then that lady that's in Iowa, she was 66, so she was deteriorating bad to even be in a facility for Alzheimer's. Because 66 is young. She was older than Pat Summitt when Pat Summitt was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Pat Summitt was diagnosed in her early 60s.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Former coach of Lady Vols basketball team. Everybody was stunned because it was like, how in the world could this woman be about 62 or something, diagnosed with Alzheimer's? And she went down fast.
Yeah,
she deteriorated as soon as she resigned from being a coach. And I could imagine that healthy lady walking around coaching one of the best college basketball teams in the country to be bedridden. And that's what's so interesting about Alzheimer's. It affects, I guess, just like any other disease, your organs, because like somebody said, what happens is you don't remember to eat. So you can't survive if you're not eating.
Yeah.
Your mind doesn't tell you to eat because you've lost your memory. That is sad.
Yeah.
So this lady was an Alzheimer's patient. She was in an Alzheimer's facility, the 66-year-old lady in Iowa. But 66 is still young in today's time.
Yeah.
50 is the new 30. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So 60 is the new 40. So it's all the same.
Folks 66, shit, they jumping on cruise ships, dancing,
doing the Tootsie Roll and everything else.
That's crazy. Now let it be something got to do with drugs or something. You going to jail forever, but they can sit up here and say somebody dead and they really not, and they just get their license taken or something. What the heck is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I would be fearful. Let's talk about this. The people who got their family members in the nursing homes. Because, everybody goes to nursing homes for different type of ailments. Some people go to nursing homes and actually get released because somebody petition on behalf to say, okay, we're going to take them out, but we're going to let them do care at the house or have a caregiver at the house, blah, blah, blah. Because a lot of people go to nursing homes just because they don't have nobody to take care of them at home. They can possibly sustain a while, a couple of years or so. But when you don't got nobody to take care of you at your house, then the nursing home is the next option. but they still lucid of their faculties and stuff. Some of the people that go in the nursing homes, they still know their name and things like that. But maybe they can't bathe themselves or change their diaper, or they don't, they can't have control of their bowels and stuff. Like I said, every situation is different. But imagine what a person thinks after hearing this and their family members in the nursing home or the rehab center.
Yeah. That's
But I definitely
crazy.
want to talk about that nurse, because that nurse was something else. Let me see that. If I pull that up. Because he sure was knocking folks out. And the thing is, he had moved from one place to the other. So you liable when you fired him, and you didn't give him a bad recommendation. He was able to go find another job somewhere.
Yeah. And then they was on administrative leave, so that they was getting paid still.
Yeah.
And
This is the Carolina story a lot of you were talking about online. Investigators arresting what they call a rogue nurse at Wake Forest Baptist in Winston-Salem. She's been arrested for murder. The Forsyth County DA says Jonathan Hayes killed 2 patients with doses of insulin. A third patient survived. Police say the incidents happened between December of last year and January of this year. Hospital staff alerted police as soon as they found out what was happening.
As soon as we identified a deviation in patient care as part of our established safety protocols, we took immediate action to remove the employee from the patient care environment and terminated his employment.
Investigators say Hayes didn't know the patients before the incidents. They haven't said anything about a motive.
WSOC TV. A former nurse is accused of killing 2 patients using insulin and nearly killing a third, the Forsyth County District Attorney said in a news conference Tuesday. Jonathan Howard Hayes, who is a registered nurse and worked at Atrium Health's Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, is charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. District Attorney Jim O'Neill said Hayes, 47, gave the 3 patients lethal and near-lethal doses of insulin. O'Neill described him as a rogue nurse. These are the victims. Gwen Crawford, 61, died on January 8th, which was 3 days after she was dosed. Hayes is charged with murder. Vicky Lingerfeld, 62, was dosed on January 22nd. She died 5 days later. Hayes is charged with another count of murder. A 62-year-old woman was dosed on December 1st, 2021, and survived. Hayes is charged with attempted murder. Channel 9 has confirmed that Lingerfeld was from the town of Vail in Lincoln County. O'Neill said he and detectives met in March with Atrium Health officials who presented details of an investigation that appeared to show that Hayes had injected a lethal dose of insulin to a patient, causing that patient's death and possibly others. Winston-Salem police took on the investigation, and after consulting with the Office of the Chief of Medical Examiner and Winston-Salem police, O'Neill said he found that police had probable cause to charge Hayes. It doesn't appear that Hayes knew the patient, and there's no apparent motive. O'Neill said evidence indicates Hayes acted alone. Police said Hayes was arrested Tuesday. Hayes was listed in the Forsyth County Jail with no bond. He was ordered held without bond at a first appearance Wednesday. Police said his case was referred to the public defender's office, but one hasn't been assigned yet, according to the clerk of the court's office. Anyone who believes they've been impacted by Hayes can call the Winston-Salem Police Department's dedicated phone line at 336-757-0357. O'Neill, whose wife is a doctor at Atrium Health, stressed that Hayes' alleged actions don't reflect the care that the hospital provides. Interesting. So his wife is a doctor at the Atrium Health. Okay, O'Neill. Let me see. Wait a minute. I'm getting confused now. Chief Medical Examiner Winston-Salem Police, O'Neill said he found that police had probable cause to charge so his wife works there. Okay. Let's make sure I'm repeating everything right. Okay, let's see. O'Neill, whose wife is a doctor at Atrium Health, stressed that Hayes' alleged actions don't reflect the care that the hospital provides. Jonathan Hayes has forfeited the honor of being called a nurse, O'Neill said. From this day forward, he will be known as the defendant. Hayes, who had worked at the hospital at various times over the past 15 years, was fired March 18th. Atrium Health spokesman Joe McCloskey said Hayes had worked at the hospital at various times over the past 15 years. So see, that's a problem right there. Why you keep rehiring? Because some people would, what were the reasons? That he was either fired or he quit. When Atrium health officials learned of these disturbing events, they reached out to patients' families, said Denise Potter, Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Media. As soon as we identified a deviation from patient care as part of our established safety protocols, we took immediate action to remove the employee from the patient care environment and terminated his employment. Officials also analyzed safety protocols to ensure something like this doesn't happen again. Last year, Hayes' wife, Misty, nominated Jonathan Hayes as a nurse of distinction for the Celebrating Nurses of Triage special section coordinated by the Winston-Salem Journal, News and Record, and NC Nurses Association. This is crazy. In her nomination, Misty Hayes said her husband would make sure patients had everything they needed and knew that they would be taken care of, the Winston-Salem Journal reported. Hayes had been in nursing for 21 years and worked during COVID-19 pandemic, according to the article. Now, that's even scarier. The biggest takeaway from the pandemic has been to never take your life for granted, Hayes said in the article. Always treat everyone the same as you would want to be treated. Yet you kill these people. So that's your statement. Never take your life for granted. Because he was probably killing people during the pandemic. Let's talk about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What I just say about people?
Jesus Christ. He was a registered nurse, so that means he was qualified. Working at the Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. 21 years in this, on and off at this place several times. That to me is suspect, the several times. So the district attorney's wife is a doctor at the same place. Okay, I'll make sure I'm repeating everything right. Well. Lethal dose of insulin, causing that patient's death and possibly others. So I'm wondering, what did they see? 2 patients in a close proximity being sick or dying.
You said what now? One more time.
I'm just wondering, what made them decide to fire him? What did they see? The 2 people died in close proximity of one another.
Oh, and it's a doctor?
No, honey. The doctor is married to the district attorney.
Oh.
So he's saying this one incident is not a reflection of people not getting adequate care at the place.
Oh.
See, I would be curious about why he's worked there several times in the past. They said various times over the past 15 years. That's not good. So that means he was going in and out of different places.
Yeah.
See, she said, as soon as we identified a deviation from patient care as part of our established safety protocols, we took immediate action to remove the employee. So what was it? 2 people all of a sudden, back to back, going in probably cardiac arrest, I would assume. Or just flat out dead.
I mean, cardiac arrest. If you go into cardiac arrest, you're going, I mean, they say you die from that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You don't come back usually from cardiac arrest.
See, what they probably noticed is that the people were probably not near death. You get where I'm going with that? They weren't there in a dire situation. So let's say today, this person was in here sick, but not sick enough to where I would think she'd die later. Now, another patient, they end up dying tomorrow or the next day. And you're the same nurse. You're the nurse on both patients. You see what I'm saying? You clocked in at the time that the people died. See, that's where the protocol probably came in, where they saw the deviation. 2 people that died on your watch in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So what are
I
the
mean,
odds? Especially if they
fishy.
weren't really sick to be dying.
Yeah, yeah, that's something
Because
ain't right.
that's where I think the problem came in. They weren't that sick.
I mean, this. I don't be knowing what to say about stuff like that because
I see you quite speechless.
I mean, because that's crazy. Like, and the reason why I'm saying that is because that's crazy how
that's what hippie is saying. They turn quickly for no apparent reason. That's what I'm saying. Each people in the hospital in there for probably different reasons. So a doctor will just use discretion. I know what he got wrong with him shouldn't have made him just fall over dead. Then let's just say something happened to the next person. All they're gonna do is go back on the charts and look and see who was working, meds given, they diagnosis for why they're there, and they probably just said, okay, this looks suspicious.
yeah, sometimes I be thinking that nurses be giving people the wrong medicine and all kinds of stuff. I don't like.
Oh yeah, I brought a story not too long ago about the woman in Nashville, the Nashville nurse. I played people the audio of how she reacted in the interrogation room. Something was very off with her. Too giddy. You're too giddy to have dead folks. You're too giddy to have a dead patient.
Yeah,
she gave the patient the wrong medicine. They had similar letters on the medicine that came down the dispensary. She didn't look at it. She just assumed it was the one she pressed into the computer. It gave her something else, and she administered to the patient, and the patient died.
Yeah, see, I don't trust that kind of stuff. I just, you never know. You just never know. Because people go to work with bad attitudes, nurses, doctors, or whatever. It don't even matter. You don't never know what they might do.
Yeah, because what she was doing is they found out that she, during the interrogation, things that she was saying wasn't matching up to what she told the people at the hospital. Really, she was distracted. She did mention that she was distracted. So it's like, okay, so you weren't paying attention. You admit that. You admit you weren't paying attention. You was busy doing something else, and then you pressing the buttons to get the medicine, and you didn't look at the medicine and realize it was the wrong medicine.
Okay, well, my thing is, if you you better go and work like in the healthcare period, like you should care, or you shouldn't work in that field. If you having a bad day and you don't feel like being bothered with nobody, and you know that you about to have to go to the hospital and deal with whoever in the situation that they're in, and you're in a bad mood, stay home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because wonder if somebody did your loved ones any kind of way.
Yeah.
I used to say that when I was working in the health field, like it was some
it's a stressful job depending on what you do. Because a lot of people that work in healthcare, they all do different things, but most of the people in healthcare, they stay stressed out. They stay burnt out.
Yeah, I mean that's why I got out of it, because I started to care about one of my clients and he passed away. When I got in my feelings like I did after he passed away, I just let it go for a while because I it'd be crazy. But anyway, if you ain't that person, to be dealing with somebody in that kind of situation or in the health care business, I mean, if you don't care about people to where you'll do anything for them the right way, then you need to get out of it.
Yeah. I remember when I had went in the hospital for my thyroid removal, and it was late in the morning, and the girl came in to draw the blood, and she couldn't get a vein, right? And I was getting irritated because it was hurting. And I told her, I said, yeah, it hurts, sweetheart. You're going to keep poking and poking. You're sticking me. It hurts. I told her, I'm going to keep the anybody just keep sticking me. So finally she said, well, I'm going to get somebody that knows how to draw it good. I beg your pardon? You're going to go get somebody that know how to do it good. Then what the fuck are you doing here?
Right.
How about that boy came in there, that young nurse or whoever he was for vitamins or whatever. He came in there, he hit it stuck on try number 1 and drew the blood out. And I just shook my head like, see, this right here, I ain't with this right here. Because that didn't make any sense that he hit the vein on number 1 try. You poking and poking 3 times and still can't get no blood out my arm. Because I told him 9 times out of 10 I was dehydrated because I stay dehydrated. So I let them know that. But the point is, What were you going to do if he wasn't there to draw the blood? Because it was the wee hours when they came in my room drawing blood. Hello? I think she froze. Thank you all so much for listening to the content. This is a two-part live pertaining to a woman in Iowa, 66 years of age, found alive at a funeral home. And another lady, elderly lady, 82, in New York. That nursing facility in Iowa has been fined a $10,000 fine by the state for improprieties dealing with this event of this 66-year-old lady being found alive at a funeral home from a nursing facility, Alzheimer's unit, Alzheimer's center, excuse me. 2 cases in a short amount of time. Then I brought you information pertaining to an African-American female that had the similar situation, allegedly died at her house, taken to a funeral home in Detroit from Southfield, Michigan, and then was later found alive when the bag was unzipped at the Detroit funeral home. This event took place 2.5 years ago in the summer of 2020. Very dire situation here. I'm not going to hold you all. That's basically my content for this live stream. Also, I brought you information from the rogue nurse out of North Carolina, currently incarcerated, no bond. There is a story about this male nurse on Netflix. I believe there's a movie and a documentary done by Netflix pertaining to this North Carolina nurse. What I find baffling about the story is the times that he wasn't working at this atrium facility. That means he had to have been working somewhere else. So how many places total has he worked in the state of North Carolina? One would have to ask. Has he worked in any other states in the 21 period of being a registered nurse? Why would this facility keep letting him come back to work? Because one would find that strange. You work here 5-6 years, then you leave. You stay gone 2-3 years, then you go back and apply, you let him come back. He works a couple years, then he leave, you come back. Several times or various times. How many times are we talking? 3, 4, 5, what? Why not stay at that job? Because maybe he was knocking people off and he got scared when people started whispering and talking and then left. And then waited a while, got the notion to go back and maybe knocked off some more patients. Because what's going to be baffling is if an investigation finds out people have died under his watch at the atrium over the years that he was working there and nobody paid attention. But on this last round, somebody was watching and paid attention. See, because we do have places where people are neglectful. They do not give the best adequate care in nursing facilities, rehab facilities, hospitals, clinics. They're just doing the bare minimum to get by. They don't adhere to complaints, concerns by patients, families. Because there are a lot of people who they have bad attitudes, they have nasty attitudes. I've experienced it, the past couple of years dealing with a certain place. It's always an attitude. My thing is you don't have an attitude about my health because it's my health. Anybody should have an attitude should be me because I'm the one that's carrying me around. But what I'm not going to do is tolerate anybody's nasty attitude or disposition about my health. Anything I inquire about or feel some type of way about, that's my God-given right. And I see this more and more with people just in general. They just have nasty dispositions. Everything's pushed under the rug. There's always an excuse for this. Paperwork. Oh, we misplaced this. Oh, it was put in a drawer. Oh, it's this. I told somebody, how can you misplace paperwork and put something in a drawer pertaining to somebody else's health where you're supposed to be filing paperwork for them to see a specialist or get aftercare or sent to another place for care? That's your damn job. So to me, that's unacceptable to say, oh, the paper was put in the desk and the people didn't file it at the hospital and this and that. So a lot of people are just getting paid to just sit at their desk and play on the computer. And that's many fields, many professions. And I see it everywhere I go where people goof off. Not just medical, not just nursing homes, not just hospitals, not just clinics, not just the doctor's office, retail, restaurant. A lot of people just are getting checks to do absolutely nothing, to do the bare minimum. And if they don't have people watching them, looking over their shoulder, fact checking, making sure they're following through, then you're going to always have these type of loopholes and dire events if nobody is paying attention, sadly. I want to thank you all for joining me. You all have a wonderful week. Please check out my community board for the said movie suggestions for this week. The first movie is The Haunt, now playing on Hulu. It is a horror movie for my horror fans. My second movie is a true crime mystery written by Anne Rule, adapted to TV, called Circle of Deception, now playing on Lifetime and Hulu. Thank you for joining me. You have now been listening to The Vault XL.